very good Monday evening to you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Unscripted. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend despite the weather. Not the best weather, a little cloudy and rainy in some areas, but nice to see a few peaks of sunshine this evening. However, it is still a little chilly out there, Joe, and it kind of feels like we're almost taking a step backwards and getting colder instead of getting warmer. Is that going to be the trend the whole week?
You know, you get those 70s and 80s and you certainly enjoy them, but then when we go back to like the 50s, it's like a reality check, right? Yeah. Not a big warm up at all this week, actually. I think it's going to feel much like today, most of this week coming up. Now, we did see some sun later this afternoon and evening. It was a nice day, but I think that's going to change too a little bit. So we'll take a look at what to expect this week and look at all the way to Memorial Day, Maya, which is a week from now.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. Let's start off with our top story tonight, which is an update from a story that we first shared with you about a week ago. The quarry on Drummond Island is receiving a $10 million federal grant for some upgrades. But to really understand why it's getting all of this money, we needed to take a closer look. So we sent our very own Daniel Zivian to get an exclusive tour of Drummond Dolomite.
Off the easternmost point of the Upper Peninsula, stacks of dolomite come into view, waiting to be loaded onto freighters. Their destination? Well, just about everywhere.
You don't realize it, but everything you touch in the day requires limestone. And it's present in everything from your shingles to the plastic and steel in your car, all the roads you drive on. Water treatment, you have to have clean drinking water.
Lamb says his team produces 2.5 million tons of dolomite per year, all of it mined further inland down a private road. Trucks bring the dolomite back and dump it into the crusher.
From there, it'll go over a set of screens where the finer stuff will be screened out and go into the product piles. The larger will go to another crusher for another reduction in size, and then back through to be sorted again.
But Lamb says there's a problem at the final step. The loader is short in both height and length, cutting off access to newer, larger ships. So great is the potential, Washington will cover most of the cost with a $10 million grant.
This was a very highly competitive grant. Only 33 awards were making in the entire United States, from Alaska all the way down to Puerto Rico.
We'll be able to move it 60 feet down to the dock, correct the structural deficiencies here, creating a safer environment for our workers, and we'll add more tie-offs for the boat so they'll be able to load more efficiently and save somewhere in the neighborhood of about 39 vessel trips a year and save 4 million pounds of carbon dioxide a year in emissions.
On Drummond Island, Daniel Zivian, UpNorthLive News.
And Daniel Zivian is going to be joining us live now for more on this story. And Daniel, this sounds like a very great plan. When will it become a reality?
Well, the plan, as I understand it, this was told to me by not Patrick Lamb on the island, but by a different Patrick. His name is Patrick Sage. He's from the corporate office in Pittsburgh. He's their legal counsel, actually. And don't mind that. There's bugs flying everywhere here. They're working throughout the rest of the year on the permit process for this. If you're familiar with our Line 5 stories, you know this very similar process. It's the NEPA process. They have to go through the same thing for this with the Army Corps of Engineers and other federal things that they have to check off the list. At the end of this year, they should have all of that done, according to Mr. Sage, and that means construction could begin in the first quarter of 2026, again, assuming everything goes according to plan.
Okay, so we don't really know an estimate of when it could be finished at this point.
No, they might have a decent idea of that, but at the moment, it's just about getting started.
All right, well, Danny, it looked like you had some really great video that you took there at Drummond Dolomite. What was your experience? What was it like actually being there and seeing all that in person?
That's a great question, Maya. I liken it to kind of being on an alien landscape. And the build-up to it was pretty incredible because, of course, you can see, as you saw in the opening shots, you can see the dolomite processing from Detour on the other side. You can see it there. But, you know, you have to go 7 miles inland by their own truck on their own private road, which they drove me down. I wasn't able to use that footage. It's a little too shaky. It's a rough and ready road. But, you know, there was all this buildup to it. And then once you get there, it's just this vast pit that they've dug out because it's not underground. It's above ground. And you're just in this chasm of sorts. And it really is an active site. It's been active. I think the original mine goes back many years, and then in the mid 20th century, they had to actually go inland because they ran out of room, and they wanted to keep the processing on the shore and go inland with the mines. Apparently, they use TNT occasionally. Fortunately, I was not there at a time when they were blasting anything.
That would also have been very good video.
Yeah.
So what's really cool about this whole upgrade project is that it sounds like this project was selected with only, I think I heard in your story, like 30 other projects in the entire country to receive some federal money. So obviously, even the federal government understands the importance of this upgrade. And you mentioned some of the benefits in your story, but really, like, why is this so important that these upgrades are made?
It's really all part of the Great Lakes flow. And we've done a lot of stories about the Sioux Locks. You see a lot of stuff that happens there. Last year, I went up to this same area to find a ship that was stuck in the St. Mary's River, a little bit further away from Detour. But that was important because it clogged up traffic for a little bit. And that flow going all the way from Duluth, Minnesota, down to Cleveland and to Buffalo, it's what keeps American industry kind of going. It's a point that the Lake Carriers Association and the people who run the Sioux Locks love to hammer home to politicians whenever they get the chance to tour the facility. The former First Lady was at the Sioux Locks last year, and that was hammered home to her while she was there as part of her visit, for example. And so think about it like this: if you make the port bigger and you have enough room for those larger ships, now you don't need a special smaller ship to show up for the Dolomite. You can just have a giant carrier that is making its way from Duluth and picked up some stuff over there and went through the Sioux Locks and is on its way to Cleveland or wherever. And they could just have a pit stop there, and then they can be on their way. And because these companies all work together, it's a very tight, it's a tight-knit organization. So once you have those systems in place that you only need the one type of ship, it can be very efficient. And again, as Patrick said, you're saving on energy, you're saving on time, you're saving on money. It's about the most logical thing you can do is just to upgrade this mine that is so conveniently placed on the corridor. And there are other mines too, I might add, down the shore as well.
And Danny, I know this is a story that you were very jazzed about, and I'm sure there were a lot of details that you had to leave out of your minute-and-a-half story. So what else do you want to mention here on Unscripted?
I think something important to bear in mind, you asked me earlier, we know when they're going to be starting, but what about when they're going to be ending the project and they're going to have it ready? And you should know that there's a reason they're not too concerned about that. When we were in the truck, Chris from the Economic Development Corporation asked Patrick, hey, how long does this mine have? How long until you're out of Dolomite? How long until it's done? And Patrick felt very comfortable saying decades. They've already done a lot of work there. You can go on Google Maps for yourself and look at the satellite imagery of what that pit looks like. He says there are still decades of work to do, and when they're done, years and years in the future, they'll let water flow into it and it'll become a lake. But if it takes a couple more years for this port to get done, it's not going to be any problem for them.
All right, Danny, well, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a little more details about your story there on Drummond Island. We, of course, will continue to provide you updates once we have a better idea of what the timeline will look like. Our next story takes us to Traverse City, where Munson Healthcare is hoping to make the transportation of medical supplies a little easier, a little faster, more efficient with the use of drones. Check it out. So far, about 100 drone test flights have been done between Munson Medical Center and Copper Ridge Surgery Center and the Dialysis Center. Now, these test flights simulate the delivery of supplies, lab samples, and medication. The drone is battery operated and it can travel up to 5 miles, can carry up to 10 pounds. And Munson says that this drone helps make transportation of supplies a lot easier. Instead of waiting on a van to take maybe 3 or 4 deliveries in about 8 hours, it could be done a lot more.
Just between here and the dialysis center, instead of going 4 times a day, we could go 8 to 12 times a day. So smaller parcels, fewer items for testing, but more frequent deliveries, which translates into the laboratory as a smoother workflow. So they have tests coming in on a constant basis instead of waiting for one van with hundreds of tests on it.
And Cleveland says Munson Healthcare is actually one of the first in the country to utilize this type of advanced drone technology. And the drone program is made possible through a partnership with Traverse Connect, Central Michigan University, Drone Up, and Blue Flight. Okay, let's take a look at our question of the day related to this story. Now, if a drone delivery service was available in your community, would you use it? And we're not just talking about for medical supplies. We're talking about for anything, for a package delivery, you probably wouldn't want it for food delivery, but I'm trying to think of any other example. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. That will take you to our website where you can vote. It looks like as of right now, we have 169 votes, and 67% are saying no, they would not use the service. And we do have quite a few comments over on our Facebook page as well. So if you want to join in on the conversation, head to our Facebook page, leave a comment, and I'll take a look at some of those toward the end of our show. One more story to share with you before we take our first commercial break. This one out of Elk Rapids. Many community members packed the government center this morning for a special meeting. The topic that drew so many people out was the potential sale of the historic township town hall building. Our Allie Baxter was there and brings us up to speed.
I'm not saying that if someone bought it, they would destroy it. However, I feel they would destroy the meaning of it.
Dozens came out in support of the historic Elk Rapids Town Hall Association, or HRFA, Monday morning. The nonprofit rents the 142-year-old building off of River Street.
It's been a roller rink, a jail, a quarantine site for a case of scarlet fever, a school gym, and a basketball court. Our community has used it as a party and reception hall, an indoor farmers market, township offices, and for proms and weddings and funerals and square dances.
Though the building has a rich history, the goal stated by HRFA Monday is to reinforce that this building isn't just a relic of the past. One community member said a sound system consultant told them the layout of the building produces a sound that organizations across the country are trying to recreate.
You don't need microphones. The acoustics in that building are so unique. It would take, in his estimation, 5 to 6 million just to try to reproduce the acoustic value that is in there due to the hardwood flooring, the high ceilings, the way the stage was built.
Besides the performance value of the hall, others spoke about the need for an event center in the area. They say the only other option is the Elk Rapids High School auditorium.
And so I would like for you to consider the future of it for these guys too, as you move forward in your decision.
It was clear everyone in this room wanted a reason for why the building must be sold.
Little did we know, even the lease that we have today is probably, in most eyes, not legal, simply because we cannot allow the practices of what's been going on in there, technically in a government building.
The township supervisor explained because the township owns the building, it technically cannot host weddings, political events, and more. The township's attorney advised it's an issue of charging to rent out space for public use. The township explained they believed they were acting in good faith by leasing the building and didn't understand the legal ramifications.
Because we were a little bit shocked, because we thought by leasing out the building, it would take us away from that. But being that we're the owner, we're still the owner.
The township board says legally they must have an appraisal on the building, which is what they approved Monday. They explained they are waiting 6 months for HRFA to come up with a way to potentially purchase the building.
I think that if you're going to get rid of that building, you might as well get rid of me, because I enjoy it so much.
That was Allie Baxter reporting. Now, the Township Board also addressed comments that were made last week about selling the building for $1 to HRFA. They said that they got a little ahead of themselves and they didn't realize that they are legally supposed to sell the property for fair market value. Another story that we will continue to keep you updated on once we learn more. All right, let's take a quick break, but coming up next, Joe will have much more on your forecast. It sounds like the week is going to remain a little on the cool side, but what is Memorial Day weekend going to look like? He'll let you know next.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Kicking off our Monday with a little bit of sunshine this evening after a couple of pretty cloudy days over the weekend, but it is a little cooler today as we've been talking about, and doesn't sound like there's really much of a warm-up. But what about this weekend, Joe, or next weekend?
Yeah, next weekend, it's Memorial Day weekend, as you
Right.
mentioned, and I think just around that time we'll start maybe flipping the script a little bit.
Perfect timing.
To some, yeah, warmer weather. Now, we did break into some sun after a cloudy weekend. We have some sunshine right now. It's not going to last a whole lot longer. I mean, we'll get a fairly clear night in, but then tomorrow, clouds kind of returning into the middle portion of the week coming up here. There's a look at Whitefish Point, Mackinac Island, Petoskey, and Gaylord, all in one big box there. What is a nice evening, although it is a little chilly. This is what it looked like earlier today. We had dry weather. There's the cloud cover that we had. It took a little while. If you're like in Reed City, you know, it was a while until the clouds broke up. Marion, McBain, that area. But pretty much all areas now enjoying a bit of evening sunshine. Meanwhile, across the heart of the country, a number of tornado watches and another round of severe weather, which we had over the weekend. There were a number of fatalities in Kentucky with severe weather, sadly. And we have more ongoing tonight from Oklahoma into parts of northern Texas, north of Dallas. We'll follow this line up toward Kansas City and then even into Iowa and Nebraska. Severe thunderstorms. We're not going to get any severe weather here, thankfully, but we will see some showers perhaps rolling in some areas as early as tomorrow. Look at our temperatures. Even with the sun, it just felt chilly out there, and, well, it kind of was. Notice right now, Charlevoix, you're only at 48. We're still sitting at 60 at Grayling, but these numbers are a good, 5 to 10 degrees, almost 12 degrees there at Sault Ste. Marie. Elk Rapids, 14 degrees, or Big Rapids rather, 14 degrees below normal for today. So we're coming in a little short of that. Here's tonight. Now, if you're worried about frost and plants, there are no frost advisories in effect because I don't think that we'll see anything widespread in terms of frost. But if you're concerned, you might want to take your plants in tonight. And this is the trend on the temperature, and you can see that. No real big warm-up coming up this week. In fact, if anything, we actually cool down a little bit into the lower end of the 50s late in the week. Now to that rain chance. Here's a look at that. We cloud up again tomorrow. And then right here, south of Traverse City, is our best chance for a little bit of rain. Perhaps there around Ludington, Baldwin. And then that is about the north extent of this. That rain will be fighting kind of a northeast wind. And so what that looks like in terms of accumulation, see the sharp cutoff? So in Ludington, yeah, you might get over a half inch of rain the next day or two. Same thing around Big Rapids. Then you get up by Traverse City and Grayling, hardly anything. And then north of there, not much rain at all. So our northern area is staying dry. To the south, that's our best chance for a little rain over the day here, Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, look ahead towards Memorial Day. So a lot of cloud cover this week. You see the temperatures kind of stuck in the 50s. But then next weekend, we might still have a few showers around Saturday. But Sunday, 60s, partly cloudy. And then on Memorial Day, I think right now it looks like some sunshine and maybe inching close to 70.
And hopefully that will stay the same when we get to Monday.
We'll hope for that for sure.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. We are going to take another quick break, but we'll check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe, talk all things Detroit Tigers straight ahead. Don't look now, but the Detroit Tigers have the best record in the MLB. And for more on the team's early success, let's bring in our sports director, Harrison Beebe, live from the Content Center. Hey, Harrison.
Hey, Maya. How are you?
I'm great. What a time to be a Tigers fan.
Yeah, this is pretty surreal. I think, a lot of us got caught up in the emotions of last fall and that pretty surreal run to the playoffs and thinking, okay, let's just give it another good try in the spring and see what happens. We're in a very winnable division. See how things go to start the year. It is a long season, though, and here we are entering Memorial Day weekend in just a few days, and the Tigers are alone at the top of the Major League Baseball standings. Still, we want to preface, this isn't in any way saying they're guaranteed to make the playoffs, although at this point, if they don't make the playoffs, it'll be pretty disappointing. Can't guarantee they're going to make a run to the World Series or win a World Series, but, the litmus test through this many games, off the top of my head, 31 plus 16, that's 47, so it's a little over a quarter of the season. It's a pretty good record to have, and especially when you're ahead of all those teams, especially focusing on all those teams, those are all National League teams that are on the leaderboard with the Tigers. So they are 3.5 games up on the best American League team at the moment. So if they keep playing pretty strong baseball, they have a great chance to have home field advantage at Comerica Park through the ALCS. Again, a long ways away. I am the last person that likes to put any type of jinx and say I told you so or say something that isn't going to end up happening. But, yeah, I mean, really, what could be better than having a team that has the best record in baseball in late May?
And the future, of course, is unknown. Like you said, still a long season ahead. But so far, what do you think has been clicking so well for this team?
Javi Baez, definitely.
Yeah.
No, but besides Javi, being a phenomenal bounce back year and finally being the player that we thought he would be when we signed him a few years back, the pitching staff has been incredible. The bullpen, albeit a little shaky at times, has been very reliable, and Spencer Torkelson having a great bounce back year. Riley Green's been great in the lineup again. Just solid players and a solid future, more importantly.
The bats are certainly swinging for this Tigers team. Thanks so much, Harrison, for that update. Let's take another quick break, but we will check out the final results for our question of the day and read a few of your comments straight ahead.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Well, right now, Munson Healthcare in Traverse City is testing the delivery of medical supplies using drones. And that prompted our question of the day. If a drone delivery service for really anything was available in your community, would you use it? As you can tell, a lot of people are saying no. Over on Facebook, Let's see, Sharon says, that's the last thing we need. Can you imagine drones infiltrating the skies? A lot of folks are just saying no out here. Nicholas says, I live 11 miles out of town. It'd be interesting to see a drone fly out here. And our sports director, Harrison Beebe, said when it comes to food, he thinks it would get too cold, so he would not use it for food delivery. That is all the time we have for Unscripted. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here tonight at 11.